So in this video, I'm going to explore the idea of materialism. I'm going to argue against it, not in favor of idealism either. In fact, whatever it is, it seems to be beyond anything that the thinking mind can conceptualize using simplistic categories. But materialism, again, we're at a strange place where you'll still find it. So I just was rereading Seth, Being You, The New Science of Consciousness. It's an excellent book and all that. It's worth reading. But it really represents this idea of materialism that we'll get there if we just study the brain, and it uses other examples in human history. And there's been so many where we're just like, well, we'll never understand this. But yet, after time and patience and work and eventually the mystery is revealed. And so that logic is, well, we just haven't had enough time with consciousness. And I don't buy that. And that's what this video is about. Because when we dissect the brain, and you don't have to be a neuroscientist to do it, you could just, but what are you going to find? You're not going to find something that a neuroscientist isn't going to find. You're going to find cells, and you're going to find their connections and neurotransmitters. And you'll find cells that process red, and you'll find cells that are associated with anxiety and fear. But those cells that are responsible for anxiety and fear are not themselves afraid, and the cells that process red are not themselves red, and the cells that process anxiety are not themselves anxious. And so that sets something up of a mystery. It's like going to a movie. It's like, you could find the movie, but you can't find the audience. Who's watching it? Which is to say, you can find these cells, but who's observing them? Consciousness, and this is maybe one of the biggest wrong turns I think consciousness took, was a very famous definition by Nagel when he wrote his famous paper, What's It Like to Be a Bat? And he came up with a definition of consciousness that you'll find just about in every psych book and every consciousness book. And the definition goes something like this. Of course, he used a bat because a bat has echolocation, and so there's something it's like to be a bat because it has that particular type of experience. So to be conscious, there has to be something it's like to be that organism. And so that kind of overlaps almost entirely, if not is totally the same argument as saying to be conscious, you have to be conscious of something. Your consciousness has to have content to it. And I think that's where we took a really wrong turn. And so I was talking about in the last video how you can become aware of the gaps between thinking. And that's a very interesting place to start, because if you focus awareness on the gaps between thinking, the gaps between sensations, the gaps between perceptions, what you'll find is sort of an emptiness. I mean, it's not a perfect. None of the words are going to be perfect for this, but it's a contentless type of consciousness, and I think that is the best proof we can get to that rejects the idea of a material world. That this material world is the substance of reality, and the reason I say it that way is because if material world, if this is it, how could it give rise to something that could experience a state that has no material in it? And so that contentless consciousness is awareness aware of only awareness. And that sounds very strange. In fact, I've never been able to communicate that to anyone who hasn't had the experience. And people who have it instantly know exactly where I'm going with it. And people who haven't had it continue to put their faith in the material world as being the ultimate substance of reality. This is completely backwards. Whatever that awareness is without content, that's what's giving rise to what we call the material world. So this whole process of discovery, it's not really discovery at all. We're not discovering physics. We're not discovering a physical reality. We're inventing it. We're creating it. And then what reality ultimately becomes is more of an art project where we're creating it as we go. And of course, this perspective, at least in my view, would explain all kinds of quantum strangeness, spooky action at a distance, And every paranormal thing up into things like the placebo effect could very easily be explained if we start with the idea of awareness giving rise to this material reality. And you might say, well, you study neuroscience and you've talked about the brain. Why would you do that if you don't even buy into any of that? Well, for a lot of reasons. The same reason I would watch Training Day or Goodfellas. I don't believe in them. I don't think that they're ultimately real, but there is a certain entertainment and value in that. And there's value in art. And so I watch that the same reason I would watch any piece of art or literature. And so to me, this material world, and particularly brains and nervous systems, are fantastic works of art. And they can act as interesting pointers to go beyond themselves. And so that's the argument I would put forth, that the material world uh, isn't at all the basic substance of reality. It's not idealism either. I wouldn't say it's ideas that are ideas. Are still have content. Ideas are still thoughts. I would say whatever this contentless awareness, that's the foundation, and it's giving rise or dreaming this material world. Interested in your thoughts on that one?